let's get everybody in the old room. There's Mr. I'm sorry. We discussed this. I keep going. Mr. PhD Tony. This doesn't make sense. It's redundantly redundant. All right. We have the one and only PhD Tony and JL Warren. And, of course, Irish Demon. Irish Demon, can you give us a hello?
Hello, everybody. I'm Irish Demon. I suck because I can't be on time.
Sorry.
That sounds like him usually. It sounds like him
That was
usually.
uncanny. Uncanny. That's what that was.
Thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like him. His mouth all full.
You know, he's eating donuts, I guess. How's everybody doing?
I don't know about everybody, but I'm doing reasonably well. And yourself, sir?
You know, I can't complain. I've been working really hard and got a lot of work done last night, early into this morning. So
you could complain. I mean,
that's true.
I feel again like it's just lack of effort on your part, really.
JL Warren, how are we doing, sir?
I am doing good. Doing really good. Glad that I finally got that last video done and put up. People seem to really enjoy it. Looking forward to moving on to the next one. And of course, just dealing with the podcast as normal.
Yep.
Other than that, Oh yeah, and prepping, prepping the house because we're gonna be moving here in a bit, and
how's that
cool
going?
Stuff. Oh, it's going good. I've already got my notice in at work. I gave him 4 weeks notice, and just slowly but surely getting the house prepped. We're bringing in a truck next Thursday, I think, so that we can start packing everything up and taking it up north.
Oh, so you've already got the place, right?
Yeah,
everything's ready to go. You can just move up. Man, that sucks. Moving at your leisure. That's never fun. You have to have it has to be like a like a Home Alone type situation where you sleep in too late and the movers are there for an hour knocking on your door and whatnot. That's the way it's got to be. That's a real move. What you're doing is not a move. That's a relocation.
Okay, yes, we are relocating.
Sounds very genteel when you put it like that.
It does. It does, because it is. There's no like, oh my God, I gotta get out in like 2 days.
Yep, no rush whatsoever.
I will have you know that I was under the impression that we started an hour later than this.
It's because of the time change.
Okay.
I don't want to keep you up to
if you say so. Well, that's fair enough. That's extremely considerate, but I was watching The Last Exorcism, so you
couldn't join us last night.
No, I couldn't join you last night. There was other stuff happening. I did see numerous entreaties to go watch The Collector. Now, is that a remake of the Terrence Stamp original?
No.
Okay. Because that's kind of a horror film. I mean, it is horrible.
It's horrible. I like that. That's funny.
Well, I mean, it's about a guy who kidnaps a girl and, wanting to sort of set up a relationship with her. And when she starts falling for her, decides that she's a worthless slut. Oh. And she ends up dying of pneumonia, and he decides to kidnap another girl. So, it is pretty horrible in that sense. It's a good film. I mean, but because this guy's pathology is just entirely self-defeating. He's never going to find happiness because he can't, but isn't going to stop him trying. But anyway.
So Kevin Paul says, PhD Tony is correct. You normally have to start for me, and today was half one. What? Huh? Kevin?
I have no idea.
So I think he's saying you normally start an hour later. That's what I think he's saying.
My time it is 7:39. If we started at 8:39, we would run to 10:30 my time, which would put it at 4 o'clock in the morning your time.
You claim. Citations needed.
I don't know. I don't know. I know.
There was.
Let's see here. In Perth, which is not where you are, I fully understand that. It's
Yeah.
8. What is it? 8:39 p.m. No way. Yeah, 8:39 p.m., which means it's now 10:39 p.m. Your time, correct?
Yeah, for me, that's correct. Yes.
Right. See, so I'm thinking about you, PhD Tony.
Oh, thank you. You're so thoughtful. I do.
Tony, you always forget that the rest of us weren't here during the 1920s. I think Jessica G means the 1720s, but you know.
Well, it was interesting. It came up. It came up during Jessica's gaming stream the other day. Somebody did say something along those lines of, we weren't around. We weren't around during the 20s. And Jessica G and very accurately pointed out that in fact we are around, and it is the 20s. So, which is not a way that I looked at the world prior to that moment. But I'm pretty convinced that the Charleston needs to make a comeback now. Just saying.
Oh man! All right. So what's been going on in your worlds?
Well, there was huge news today, right? Because famous globe hero Ranty has abandoned the flat Earth.
He has.
Really?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Conspiracy
Yes.
Cats gets another one.
Well, to be fair to Ranty, he discovered the photo that sort of he couldn't explain except by by just admitting, look, this is exactly what it says it is. I can't find any reason to doubt it. And obviously, there's like 400 meters of elevation that's hidden by something. And so the flat Earth. The flat Earth theory, the flat Earth hypothesis can't be correct. Would be his was his conclusion, yeah. So that
Do you
happened.
think that he was maybe looking for a reason why to come back to the globe?
It's a bit confusing with Ranty because when I first entered this community, I thought that Ranty was the most likely to come back because he'd go out and he'd get evidence and he would treat the evidence dispassionately. He wouldn't try and fudge his results. He wouldn't lie about stuff, which a lot of flat earthers are pretty absolutely remorseless about doing. But at the same time, he wouldn't listen to, I remember he appeared on Fight the Flat Earth and sort of I sent in a super chat saying, well, what about seismological evidence? We can prove that Antarctica is not the edge of a disk using seismological evidence. And he just said, oh, well, that's not my expertise, but I had some guys do some seismology down the end of my street, and they didn't know that they were going to hit and run into something. And you're just thinking, so hang on a second, you don't know anything about it, but you're prepared to completely dismiss the work of tens of thousands of professional seismologists who have been working at some of the most impressive intellects that I've ever encountered, on a person-to-person basis. Absolutely outstanding intellectuals with a vast amount of technique, but they're wrong. And you who take pictures, you've got a better idea. And he's still got some misgivings about some of the photos that he's taken. And he thinks that he can explain that using gravity variations, and he can't. It's not going to happen because surface tension in water can only hold a relatively gentle gradient. You're never going to get a steep enough gradient on the water to have the effects that he wants it to have. Anyway.
Yeah. So it sounds like he was looking for a reason to come back. I think that's what it was. I think he just got tired of all the bullshit and said, fuck it, let's just give him a win.
Well, one of the things that he did, that he was sort of very keen on, was that Oakley and Riley are in are in it for the money, and he isn't. So that's an important point as well.
Right. It's funny when you take that motivation away, what happens? Like if Nathan Oakley made enough money where he didn't have to get on the internet and lie about everything, then maybe he would stop doing that shit too.
I think
I said maybe. I said maybe.
You said maybe. Okay.
I always got a sense it was more about ego with him. It was about just
that's probably true.
trying to establish. He feels like it gives him power. Is the sense that was always my takeaway. Is like, look at the power that I have. He's legit. Like the best comparison I made was that he's the Darth Dawkins of Flat Earth.
I don't know. Darth Dawkins is a gigantic. We're going to talk about Darth Dawkins here in a minute too. Yeah, I guess that's a fair assumption or a fair comparison.
I compare the two. Listen to his videos, and I've unfortunately listened to a lot of Darth, and I could say there's some decided similarity there. You know, some of Darth's argumentation and gas go down, go boom, boom. Yeah, they're kind of they're cut from the same cloth, just two different ends.
I'm supposed to clothesline you, Tony, for rocking in your chair.
Sorry.
I don't care. You rock, buddy. You rock that chair. That's all I'm saying.
Sorry.
So anyway, Tony, you were about to say something about Nathan Oakley, about gas.
I think if he hadn't fallen into flat Earth, he'd be scamming people on something else, like evolution denialism or young Earth creationism. He'd find some other forum to sort of just argue that black is white and yell at people.
Yeah. Do you think that's going to happen now that the whole flat Earth thing is kind of slowly but surely dying?
I mean, one of the things is that I've tried to make flat Earth as dead as I can make it. And if people watch my videos and they've still got questions about the shape of the Earth, I can't help them because they're just not listening to what I say.
Right.
As far as I can, yes, that's right. That's how I feel anyway. But that being said, I mean, sort of, I had Dell comment on one of my the first of my geochronology videos, and he was saying, why not if you guys are done doing cartoons about a fake Earth and straw manning us, why not come up and have a civil debate? And I'm going, well, if you think that all I've done is straw man, then the discussion's over.
There's no civil debate to be had.
I'm not presenting straw men. I'm presenting you with data that you didn't have before, and you're just ignoring it. You're not allowing it to modify your viewpoint, which is an entirely religious point of view. Like, that's religious thought, and it's just okay, I can't convince you, so I move on with life. I'm not going to beat my head against this wall forever. I've done I've done pretty much all I can. I mean, I've thought about one or two other videos I could do explaining this entire gravity is not a force thing. Which is kind of a misinterpretation of what Einstein said. What Einstein said is that there is no downward force near Earth. So if you want to take that and relabel it as relative density, Einstein would tell you that doesn't exist either. What Einstein was saying was that the only force that is being applied is the upward force from whatever you're standing on. While you're falling, you're not actually subject to a force. You're just tracing your geodesic through space-time. That was his attitude.
Well, we all know he's a dishonest piece of junk. So,
Yeah, I want to clarify. I want to clarify that you're talking about Oakley and not Einstein there.
Oakley,
So
right?
just
Yes, Nathan Oakley, not Einstein. Einstein was
yeah.
just I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I want to say good morning or evening or whatever the hell it is to everybody in the chat. We've got a few people here. Good to see all of you. Thank you for joining us. Well, at least most of the Four Beardsmen. One of them couldn't get away from the donut desk as he was discussing his donut habits with the cop eating donuts. Wait a minute. Donut eating cops. There you go.
Yes.
All right. So, speaking of dishonest people, JL Warren sent me a screenshot from Darth Dawkins himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, to preface this is actually a little bit of a story there, because I've been banned from Darth's server, I think, 5 times now.
Yep.
And I finally got back in under another Discord account. It's Wandering Atheist, and so I pop into Darth's Discord, and I finally asked him. I kept dropping little hints in the chat because I didn't want to. If I wanted to message him, there's a chance that he could just ban me outright when I message him. So eventually I was like, screw it. He's not responding, so I just asked him directly. He's like, hey, or do you plan on debating PhD Tony? Or do you plan on debating Dr. Anthony Purcell, is what I said. And he finally responded to me. It was kind of like, who is this? You like some clarification. It was like, okay, so you said that that Johnny O at the plot hole insulted you, and because of that, you wouldn't debate Dr. Purcell. And
I didn't, by the way.
Yeah, we proved we actually debunked that live. We on a live stream. We actually pulled up the video and looked at it. And he wasn't talking about you. He was talking about a flat earther. And since we cleared that up, are you going to debate, or will you debate it now? And his response is pretty much what I sent to Johnny.
It was kind of funny that he won't. Anybody associated with JL Warren or the plot hole can pound sand. He refuses to come onto the channel, which is his right, and that's fine. But because we're only interested in views. And the funny thing about that statement is, no shit, Sherlock.
Funny thing.
Why the fuck do you think we do YouTube, you jackass?
He's obviously he's got no ability to actually debate, and that's clear enough. And particularly after having seen JL's dissection, what he is doing is basically saying, look, anybody who might have seen JL's video, I don't want to talk to. For the very good reason that
right.
That having watched JL's video, you're now pretty much what he's going to do. You know how he's going to try and do it, and you can preempt a lot of what he tries to do.
Yeah.
Make it clear there are actually 4 possible positions that you can take on this issue. One, there's a God, but I can't prove it. 2, there's a God, and it is logically unavoidable to come to this conclusion, which is Darth's position. There is not a God, and I can prove it. Or there's not a God, but I can't prove it. And there's a 5th one where I don't know either way. But and JL's correct that he's just trying to sort of manipulate you into trying to assert you can prove God doesn't exist, and I don't think that you can. JL tries bravely.
I think that there can be. Okay, so I've broken it down to this. That no, I cannot prove that a faceless, nameless, all-powerful entity that kicked the football in the universe and then fucked right off and left no evidence of itself. I can't prove that thing doesn't exist. If there was a supernatural force that was like before the Big Bang, and is the whole reason we have a universe, but obviously being empirically separated from that, I can't prove that does not exist. That hypothesis holds as much weight as cyclical universe rebirth, or death and rebirth. So sure, I can't prove that, but I do believe that I have an argument that shuts down the omni-Christian God. That one right there, I believe that I actually think that I can shut that one down completely by virtue of its own, by virtue of how reality works, how we know reality works, and by virtue of the definition of how that God is defined, that I can argue that down to where that God meets the quality of non-existence.
Well, I can do that by pointing out that no ethical person or no ethical individual would allow the universe to be in the state that it's in if they had the capacity to prevent it from being in that state in any one of a number of ways. And God is alleged to have that capacity, and he chooses not to, but he is claimed to be ethical. One of those three things can't be true.
Well, that could easily be justified by the being having omniscience and knowing that the suffering now is going to lead to great things later on.
But then that
doesn't
I didn't say I agreed. I didn't say I agreed with it. I just said that's what they're gonna say.
That might be what they're going to say, but I'm going to rip it apart for them and shove it down their throat if they want it. If they want to. That sort of asinine ass hattery. But anyway, so
speaking of shoving things down people's throats, Nerd Angle says Friday morning he woke up to 4 inches. Nothing.
Was he sleeping on his shoulders?
Oh, jeez. So terrible. And so yeah, getting back to Darth Dawkins, this guy doesn't debate. He follows the script. Sorry, you go right ahead.
Are you transitioning immediately from what I think might be an erection reference to Darth Dawkins? Because it
was definitely a penis joke.
It seems like you need a bigger bridge, right? It seems like you need.
No, it was a penis joke. And we're talking about a giant. We're talking about a penis.
Okay. All right.
Man, we could get him on the dickhead. If we could get him on the Beardsmen, it'd be amazing.
He wouldn't fucking dare show up on this show.
No,
he's too much of a scared little bitch. And now, see, Darth Dawkins. Now you can tell people I'm talking shit about you and making fun of you because
that's what he said. That's what he said in the. Oh dang it! No, he actually. He hasn't kicked me from the server, but he did block me after that message exchange. I can't message him again.
Of course, because he's a little bitch.
He said, let me see here. The message I sent. Anyone connected to the plot hole and JL, specifically me, nobody called out of me can pound sand. The only reason you were contacting me is to boost views for your crappy channel. If Purcell wants to dialogue with me, give him my Discord link. I already saw how he maligned me on his YouTube channel, and they gave me the link. Four Beardsmen of the Apocalypse. It was one that was put up on your channel back before we coalesced it onto its own.
Yeah.
I just looked him up and found the video, and then he blocked me, so I couldn't message him directly.
He's such a little bitch. Golly, he's such a little bitch. You are Darth Dawkins. I know you're gonna look at this because I'm about to put your name in the fucking title of this video. You're a little bitch. You're a scared little bitch who can't do anything outside of your own little echo chamber. That's the only reason why you won't meet anyone else anywhere else. Okay, you got exposed to being a little bitch on Modern Day Debate, which is very difficult to do, seeing as how James doesn't really moderate. You got exposed to being a little bitch in your own server. People fucking talk shit about you. All you can do is mute them and ban and kick. That's all you got. That's all you can do. It's the only reason why you won't step out of Reformation. Because you're a scared little bitch who has no skill whatsoever in debate. Period.
I really, really wanted to hear him yell at PhD Tony, "Don't overtalk me." I wanted to hear him do that shit so much.
Yes, I have had that experience before with Bart K where he would leave a pregnant pause and then I would start talking. He's going, "Don't over talk me." I'm going, well, for fuck's sake, can you? I would, am I waiting for you to die?
Oh, okay. So let me ask you something, Tony. I got to ask you this because this glorious trouncing will never take place, and we'll never get to see him rage quit a fucking debate. It'll be between you two. He will ask you, in your godless worldview, what grounds and instantiates all that is possible and impossible?
The question is ill-formed, right?
Thank you.
It's a let's, can you try saying that in a more meaningful fashion would be my response, because that's just not a scientific,
I'm asking you a science question. I'm not asking you a science question.
Right.
This is exactly what
it doesn't matter if it's a science question or not. I want a question whose meaning I clearly understand and I clearly agree is meaningful before I will respond to it.
I am asking normal, circumspect questions that I ask people every single day. Why do you have a problem with PhD?
You are.
Don't overtalk me. This is your final warning.
Well, don't make me come over there, JL.
This is exactly how he wants it to go, though.
Yeah, this is how a debate between you and him would go. Is that the minute you try to cite science, he's going to back away, or he's going to basically say, I'm not asking a science question. The minute you start talking about epistemology, he's going to say, this isn't an epistemology question, it's an ontology question. He's going to do everything he can to keep it so narrow in order to pull that little trick where he tries to manipulate you into taking a positive or to making a positive claim that you can't possibly defend.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way I found around it is, and the reason I got banned the last time I got banned was because I disagreed with him. I disagreed with how he defines God. I said the definition you put on God, I don't think that's correct, and I think there are denominations of Christianity out there that will disagree with you. And then you just called me a dishonest scumbag, and he banned me.
Well, I got banned because I said that he seemed a little irritated when I asked him to debate PhD Tony.
Yeah, well,
That's how much of a bitch he is.
Well, the whole thing is, the boundary between the possible and the impossible, and I've been coming up against this in making young Earth creationist videos because they can argue, well, God just made it that way, and that's all there is to it. And you go, okay, well, that's not impossible. But it's completely scientifically useless, and it doesn't explain why, we can actually use geochronology to locate ore deposits, for instance, because we can reconstruct the thermochemical regimes that are most likely to lead to mineral formation. So, it's, but it's not impossible, it might be the case that invisible unicorn riding fairies are just manipulating the sample so that we get the right answer. That's not impossible. I mean, the whole thing, where's the boundary between what's possible and what's not impossible? It's not impossible that the sun won't rise tomorrow. I mean, it's just really, really unlikely based on our past experience. And we discount it as a possibility, but it's not impossible per se. And so the whole question is, pretty much ridiculous.
It runs down these rabbit trails of how could you possibly, that without God, you can't possibly know anything. You can't possibly ground anything. You have no means to instantiate any kind of fact that nothing at all anything is possible in your godless worldview. Anything is possible in a worldview in which God exists, but you deny him. So, which is pretty much what he's setting. Which is what he's setting up. He'll
never acknowledge her position that you don't. He'll never acknowledge a position that you don't. That there is no God. He'll never acknowledge that. Everything in the way he scripts his bullshit. He's trying to trap you. That's the whole thing. These are like fucking Looney Tunes style traps that anybody.
He tried to pull this shit on Lawrence Krauss.
Yeah, well, he tries to pull shit on everybody, and I thought it was hilarious when Shannon Q picked him apart, like picked up on his bullshit really fast, and then she was like, "Yeah, this is interesting how you are phrasing your questions," and he got so pissed off about it because, like, dude, this is, and I'm not saying Shannon Q is a brilliant mind, so I'm not saying that even she figured it out, but the fact that she figured it out so quick. The reason why it pissed him off is because there's a lot of people who are very charitable, or used to be very charitable with Darth Dawkins and his argumentation, or his style of argumentation. But none of this shit that he does is veiled. It's easy to see what he's doing. Anybody who's ever studied any kind of rhetoric or any kind of argumentation or debate or style of debate knows what he's trying to do from the very beginning when he asks his first question, which is a loaded question.
Yeah. That's right, and I mean this misidentifies the concept of science. So the young Earth creationist argument is that whatever technique you use for dating something, be it ice core chronology or Varv chronology or tree rings or radiometric dating, anything you use to sort of get a sequence of stuff, they'll go, well, that's in the past. We weren't there. We've got no way of knowing what was going on. You're making assumptions about what was going on.
Oh, is it the fucking genetic fallacy?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's that completely misses the point. The point of science is not to confer certainty. That's not what science does. Science gives you a technique for identifying the most likely result that is consistent with the evidence you have. And it, the claim that something can only be accepted as proven if somebody was there to see it. How do you expect to get a murder conviction ever if that's your standard, right? If the defense lawyer can just stand up and go to a forensic scientist and just go, well, you weren't there, you don't know. How do you think the jury's going to react?
Yeah, let's flesh out a little bit. So
that's actually so brilliant. You see the lawyer. Were any of you there? I don't think so.
You're a prosecutor, right? And you bring up all this forensic evidence, right? So you've got blood. You have blood from the scene of the crime that matches the defendant. Okay. On the deceased, okay, you have GSR residue on the defendant's hands that was collected at the time of the crime. You have a firearm registered to the defendant with bullets that match, ballistics match, that were in the dead versus the defendant. And then you present all this fucking amazing and awesome evidence. And then all the defense attorney has to do is say, but you weren't there. Not guilty. How fucking stupid is that?
the very wide window of reasonable doubt.
well, there are two other elements that of this argument that really kind of stand out for me. Is so you weren't there when the Bible was written down. You don't know who wrote it or under what circumstances. And a lot of the Bible was written down by people who weren't there. The Gospel of John was written in 120 AD, 90 years odd after Jesus's crucifixion and ascension. So the person who wrote down John wasn't present for the events he purports to describe.
Right.
But even if we accept it, you're clearly taking the person who wrote down Genesis clearly wasn't there for the creation of the universe. So why is it that all of a sudden, because this guy wrote it down, wrote down as a description of events they weren't at, Why are they suddenly trustworthy, but we weren't there? We don't know. Well, how the fuck does he know? Or she, or they?
Divinely inspired. They were divinely inspired.
Oh, I hate that stupid. I hate that. I hate
Yeah.
that bullshit. That reasoning. Oh, it was divine. Fuck off. Just
Literally
Jesus.
moving the goalpost to another stadium.
You're moving the goalpost to completely. You're fucking playing football, and then you're moving the goalpost to fucking tiddlywinks.
Yeah.
We're not even playing the same goddamn sport. We're not even playing something that could be considered a sport. It's so stupid it was divine intervention. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Well,
All
I
right,
appreciate it, Johnny.
Not you, PhD Tony. Fuck the people who try and pull that bullshit that it's divine intervention. PhD Tony, I would never want to fuck you.
You see, what I ultimately wanted, what I really, really wanted, is I wanted a counterpart to "Yes, I fucking can," because eventually, Darth is going to complain that Tony has contradicted himself. It's like, well, you've contradicted yourself. No, I fucking haven't.
Yep.
You want the contrapositive, yeah.
What is it? Was I talking with UJL about somebody doing it, like timing Darth Dawkins' bullshit, and it's like almost point for point, it happens right around the same time, everything that he does? If you follow along with his logical bullshit, his argumentation, it's like clockwork.
True. Yes. You didn't have that conversation with me, but I totally agree with what you're coming at there. It's that you can virtually time what is as long as the individual gives concise answers and it doesn't ask for any clarification. Like they pick up what Darth's dropping as he's dropping it, then you could time it out just enough. But most people they ask for they look for clarification because his questions are worded so fucking weird.
Yes.
Specifically, designed that way. But his questions are worded in that way in order to elicit that kind of confusion and make them look stupid, or make them, what he says, make them look stupid. These atheists are so dumb, or because they realize that they realize you're trying to manipulate me. Oh, you're just being dishonest. So
stupid.
So if you smell the grift, you're a liar, and if you don't see the grift, you're an idiot.
You're an idiot. Yeah. So it's a no-win situation. It's a Kobayashi Maru.
Well, I mean, except that there's nothing, in the Kobayashi Maru simulation, you're in a spaceship. You can't get up and walk out. Like,
I don't know what Captain Kirk did.
But it's the same as PKA, which sounds actually like a Kurdish army. Now the People's Kurdistan. I think it might be, but it might be the name of a Kurdish armed force. Now that I think about it, but anyway, tangible energy. Well, actually, I've done a lot of science, and we don't generally talk about tangible energy or intangible, and we and if you want to come up and just start talking about things in a vague, waffly way, where you get to use the language imprecisely, do it on your own.
Filibustering.
It seems more than slightly masturbatory if you're using your own definitions of words to make your own point. Well, okay.
I was literally so bummed that fucker didn't listen to any of my intro,
no,
and I worked hard on that intro.
No, but here's the thing:
to hear it.
I heard your intro. The audience heard your intro, and that's who really needs to hear it. The audience. Fuck those idiots. Those idiots, man, they're stupid. I when I saw his 3 questions, when he sent me his 3 questions, because the debate format was explained to him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when somebody takes the time, you don't ask yes or no questions in your opening 3 questions. I thought that was pretty fucking obvious.
So at that point, I mean, I've often considered this. At that point, you'd say, look, your opponent's muted. You've got 10 minutes. Go for have you got anything to say other than asking your opponent questions? Because if you haven't got anything to say,
He did.
then we'll sit here awkwardly for a few minutes, for 5 minutes until you do, because you're just looking like a fucking idiot for coming to a debate without anything to say. And you got to hammer it home, I think, as a moderator. Like you were given this amount of time for a presentation, and you chose to blow it because all you want is to try and trap your individual in trap your opponent in some sort of gotcha arrangement.
Yep.
Just like a theist brings God to a gunfight.
Yes.
Fohammer, speaking of questions, I need to get my expanded ones too. Yeah, take your time, Fo. You got a few hours. You got 12 hours, a little over 12.
I'm so glad I'm hanging out with people who remember the Untouchables. Because
when you say it like Sean Connery, I mean, come on.
I'm just glad because that would have gone over Irish's head. He'd have been like,
What? What the fuck was that you said?
So you don't remember the Untouchables with Sean Connery and Kevin Costner? Andy Garcia,
No.
really good shot.
No,
The
I don't think I've ever
stairs,
seen
the
it.
stairs, and the baby stroller. You were wearing a blue jumper. Oh yeah.
Oh, right you are there. Right you are. That's a shitty Irish name. It's a shitty Irish name and accent, but it's an Irish accent nonetheless. I figure if he's not going to be here for me to make fun of, I'm going to make fun of him some way.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, geez. So, we are in the first week out of the whole blow up with the community. Here's what I have to say about this really quick.
Collective size.
Yeah, right.
What the fuck?
So everybody's talking about how, well, this is not good for the community, all this infighting, and not good. Bullshit. It's actually really good for the community because when we see stuff like this and we ignore it or we let it go or we don't want to talk about it because it's, quote, not good for the community. Fuck that bullshit. You need to have the discussions about these things. You need to let people know that we are going to keep you accountable. We are going to hold you accountable for the shit that you do. I expect to be held accountable. If I do some fucking shady ass shit, bring it to my attention and hold me accountable. I think I can speak for everybody on this panel when I say we all should feel that way, that if we do some fucked up shit, bring it to our attention, and if we can't justify our actions, then hold us accountable.
Yeah, and it's this to me, there's also you and I discussed this the other day. There's just sort of, we're not actually in a court of law. And this is a standard that people, often try and get applied to situations that we're not in a court of law. You're trying to get, sure, if this were, if he was being charged with a criminal offense, yes, the standards of proof would be very high. If he was being sued, the standard of proof would be lower.
If it's civil, it's preponderance. It's by the preponderance of evidence, not by reasonable doubt. So civil versus criminal.
Criminal.
Yeah, it's
and in criminal, it's criminal. In criminal, it's only reasonable doubt. So the entire thing that Sly Sparkane was doing, where it's not necessarily the case. Okay, how likely is it? This is again, science is about what's most likely, and we will admit our level of uncertainty. Look, we're not 100% certain, but what this looks like is blah, and we can say, there is some uncertainty, but there would be ways to remove this uncertainty. For instance, Sean could have expressed some genuine remorse, expressed at any point concern for people other than himself when we were talking, which he never did. He certainly didn't express any concern for his victims. He didn't express any concern for the content creators that were adversely impacted by his actions. The only people he expressed any concern for were people who were directly related to him and who, his friends, so to speak, the people who stood up.
He expressed no concern for the moderators who had to deal with the fucking flurry of bullshit after he opened his fucking mouth and told everybody he didn't really give a fuck about how they feel.
Yeah, and you just it wasn't, you know, sort of there was a lot of people who came there with their minds made up about him, and I think that they should have taken the time to listen to him. That being said, if they had taken the time to hold off from judgment and listen to him, they would have ended up in exactly the same fucking place, because all he did was make himself look more guilty, vastly more guilty, in my opinion. He didn't have a reasonable explanation for any of the string of outrageous things he did. And I mean, I have been in a situation where I don't have a car and the nearest large supermarket is an hour's walk away. I walked there, I walked back.
Yeah, but even still, like the way he was getting his food, he could have taken an Uber or a Lyft and driven him to the fucking supermarket, purchased all his groceries, at least a week's worth, right? And then taking him back to the house.
Not tripling the cost of a single meal.
Right.
You know what turns out to be a decent decent amount of, decently nutritious meal is an omelet, right? Yes. You can put peppers, you can put mushrooms, you can put cheese in it. It's got proteins, it's got vitamins. It's a good meal.
I was going to say grubs. You dig them right out of the earth.
You could.
You could. If they were the right grubs, yeah.
As desperate as he's making the situation out to be, you'd think that he should have resorted to eating insects in order to save every penny that he possibly could.
Well, the thing was that he wasn't saving pennies. He was, engaging in a really lazy and really quite profligate way of living. If you're that hard up, why are you paying for an internet connection? If you're sort of, there's no evidence of the level of sacrifice that Sean was claiming that he had gone through. And there was certainly no level of desperation in the way he seemed to be acting. And it just seemed unreasonable. And, Red's rhetoric and his friends saying, well, there was no, we're not going to believe this or indulge in it. Well, actually, you guys were responsible for this happening. And, if there is a strong suggestion, and there was a strong suggestion that there was malfeasance, it's actually your responsibility. Short of getting the police involved, who should be looking into this thing? It's,
So
you guys...
Jessica G has a really good point. So if Red's rhetoric was intellectually honest, as he claims to be, he would have called out his friend. Doesn't mean he has to stop being his friend, but he should hold him to a high standard. I agree. I
think that's very succinct. Sorry, I've been talking for ages and ages. I should shut up.
No. That's what this is about. This is about a healthy discussion. And when you have something to say it, like I said. But yeah, that's actually a really good point. If I were to come to this community and say, hey, guys, I'm in dire straits. I need this, that, and the other. And, Irish Demon, for instance, hosts a fundraiser. And, yeah, I would have no problem saying, hey, look, guys, we raised this much money here. Here's the proof of it. And this is what I paid. This is what I did with this money right here. Boom. Here it is. Here are all the receipts. Because...
And I was very grateful when we did that we were donating to an official charity, but also that, we had a couple of people who were quite responsible with all the money. And behaved in a very transparent and very efficient manner. I was very grateful for that. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, I was happy to do it. I mean, everybody here was happy to do it, because that's what you do, right? I don't have when that dumbass TP Seeker moron wanted to try and insinuate that we had money come up missing from fundraiser. Go fuck yourself, dude. We've got receipts, and everyone wants to see them. I'm more than happy to show you the receipts.
Wait, somebody tried to accuse the Beardsmen of Malfeasance?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so it was. He had a very confused recollection.
Because I never heard about any of this.
So there was on a live stream of Irish Demons. He had a live stream in response to a conversation he was having with an individual called TP Seeker, and TP Seeker, was quite confused. So there were after the 24-hour stream for the Trevor Project, Irish Demon mentioned another fundraising exercise that he had in mind, which was for water capable.
Oh, the wheelchair.
Yeah, that's right.
The kind of like the individual RV thing. Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, and TP Seeker had some recollection that there had been a fundraiser for that, and that some of that Irish Demon had to put in money out of his own pocket, and I think his recollection was just really, really confused.
Yeah, and the fact that he was trying to use the joke fucking troll video that I made, the Room 904, the
right
bullshit break-in that I had in the middle of that video. Oh, see, you got a break-in and people steal them. It's like, oh fuck, come on, dude. He's been pissed off about that video since its inception, since the first time I put it out and Crafty Keela and Irish Team were like, nope, that's not us. Like, dumbass, they're playing a part, you fucking idiot. How stupid are you?
No, hang on a sec. We make troll content.
Yes, to catch flat earthers.
And then we put it out there, and then someone takes the bait and fights it like a Minnesota pike, and then we can't really get irritated that we caught the fish we were looking for.
Well, no, we didn't catch the fish we were looking for.
Oh, we got some other fish. We got a trash fish. We got a gar.
We got a gar that we want to throw back. Like, dude, nobody wants to eat you.
I vaguely recall. So Jessica G is asking, "Is TP Seeker a Red's Rhetoric stooge?" It may well be. But I have a vague memory that I've had unpleasant encounters with TP Seeker. But I will tell you who I clearly remember having an unpleasant encounter with was AT2 Productions.
Really?
Yeah. So AT, when I would, I was coming up on my 1,000 subscribers, just as sort of this started kicking off, and with Keela and the whole thing. And I made a video saying, look, I'm quite concerned about the dynamic in this community, because if this sort of thing can stand, if someone like Keela can be persecuted across multiple social media platforms and have her mental health laid siege to by basically nothing more than self-righteous assholes who have decided to overreact to a poorly phrased, an admittedly poorly phrased video. But if they can do that without any consequences, then this community has some very serious problems. And AT2 Productions said, "You've been lied to." And he wanted to talk to me on Discord. We talked on Discord, and he just told me stuff that I already knew. And he said, Keela should have done this. We said to Keela, you need to, go back to that video and edit that out. And she didn't do it. Well, actually.
Well, who the fuck are you to tell people what they should do?
Yeah, that's, so she didn't do what you wanted her to do. Therefore, she's a liar and evil. Perhaps she doesn't like being bullied. Have you considered that? Perhaps she doesn't.
Oh, you mean an Irish person doesn't like being bullied? No.
Yeah. Perhaps
she
doesn't. Perhaps she doesn't like being hounded. Perhaps she doesn't. Perhaps it's a point of pride with her. Perhaps this is triggering her in some way that we don't know. I don't care. And I am sorry for discussing this, because I do want to leave Keeler out of it as much as possible. But effectively, he was just talking at me for 40 minutes. And whenever I tried to say, well, that doesn't sound like a lie to me. That doesn't sound, and she said she'd leave YouTube and then she released a video. I happen to know that she completed the video before she made her announcement. So she made her announcement about leaving YouTube and then released a video. Yes, but she'd been working on the video beforehand.
So
so that's not really a lie.
Because I say I'm leaving YouTube in a moment of frustration and anger or hurt,
Yep.
all of a sudden
Yep.
I'm never allowed to change my mind ever again. I'm never allowed to come back. Go fuck yourself.
And it was just the most sort of weird ass interaction. One of the most weird ass interactions I've ever had, because it was like, you do understand that people who aren't you will behave differently. Like you do understand the concept of personal autonomy for people. Like it's not the case that you get to tell them how to behave, and he just didn't seem to be getting this concept at all. And I'm pretty sure to this day that that Red's rhetoric and friends don't get this. That they're actually not the arbiters. They're not the internet's police force. They're not the community's police force. They're not the arbiters of what is ethical or not. And they're going to come out and they're going to try and smear Team. Reds has made a public announcement that he's working on a 20-page dossier on all the crappy stuff. And I mean, I've done crappy stuff in my life, so
that's just petty right now.
I think that it's completely disproportionate. Like
it's not like Team Skeptic went after Red's rhetoric. Yeah, he got pissed off at him about this, that, and the other. They got angry with each other, but it's not like Team Skeptic said, "Oh, Sean Huffer, that means Red's rhetoric is this or Red rhetoric is that." No, he said, "Hey, he was helping his friend, but he should have held his friend to a higher standard."
Yeah, it's it seems to me like they've got a complete double standard, and it's based around, as I was discussing yesterday, they confect outrage. They will pick something, get outraged about it, and then just ignore the fact that their position is completely illogical. They're annoyed at Team. If you listen to Reds talking about Team was drunk. Team shot off his mouth without having all the evidence. Team is a nobody. Blah 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 blah. It was all like, well, actually, this has nothing to do with the issue at hand, which is, are Team's accusations, do they have any merit to them?
Right.
That's the issue. Sorry, I broke JL. I just destroyed it.
No, I had stretched.
Okay.
I like what you said better. I like that you destroyed him. That sounds better, I think.
Yeah.
See, there it goes.
Please. Could destroy me if I handed you the weapons to do so.
Ooh, that sounds like a challenge. I think we need to set up a PhD Tony versus JL Warren on ghosts debate.
Okay, I have...
I just broke him. I broke him. There it is.
No. Got enough of that shit from Irish last night.
That was pretty good, actually. How Irish was able to spin that on the fly. I gotta give him credit. But back to this whole business about so there is a level of infighting that I disagree with, and this is part of it, right? Now, if Reds has evidence of Team committing some sort of fraud, then why is he waiting until now to put it out? It just seems like it's totally retaliatory.
Yeah,
I'm pissed off at Team because he exposed this thing that I was involved in. That's just making Reds look more complicit or more knowledgeable about any potential wrongdoings with this with this fundraiser and all of his fundraisers. And that's the thing. Team never said all fundraisers. He said just this one.
No.
This one fundraiser. It's the only one I'm questioning. I don't think there's anything wrong with the Boole fundraiser, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that would be I mean, it just seems like Reds is overreacting a bit. All right, I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yes, well, I'm responding to something in the chat.
No, you're good.
Why does Jessica G get a spanner? Asked Mr. Malort. She gets a spanner because we implicitly trust her judgment. That's why she gets a spanner. She's sort of her channel is sort of a sister channel, at least to mine, and I think she's been one of the Beardsmen's biggest supporters for ages.
Mm-hmm.
Since inception, yeah.
Why does she call you Muffin Top?
Muffin. Are you familiar with this term?
I know what a muffin top is. I'm wondering why she's suddenly calling you Muffin Top.
She's just calling me fat. That's all. I mean,
I thought Irish Demon was the fat one.
It's not an exclusive position. It's
we're all the fat ones compared.
It can be jointly held. Yes.
There's many varying levels of fat.
Fohammer335, I want to get with you about that because I'm trying to work on follow-ups to this story for the new show because I want to be intellectually honest and I want to give everybody's side of the show, but nobody wants to, like Sean and Reds, they won't speak with me, which is, it's fine. But I'm curious. I'm going to
the way you mistreated him.
Oh, I know. That was so horrible to him, asking him
the hostile environment.
Yeah.
He's such an idiot.
Yeah.
What a
hostile environment. Motherfucker, come back on the show and I'll give you a hostile environment.
Okay, I think I broke PhD Tony. He's like, what? What?
Well, I am outraged. Like, have these people not seen me on a stream before? Because let me tell you, you'd know if I was being fucking hostile, because they don't keep it much of a secret, right?
Hostile? I'll show you hostile.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll show you hostile. That's not hostile. This is hostile.
Right.
And I made an effort to let Sean get out of there fairly gently. And if I'm being honest, actually, I've not been really hostile to Reds either. I haven't gone off on Reds in a way that I could have. If he were, in a chat with me and behaving in the way that he does, that is very similar to Flurf's. But I talk about him in the third person because I'm never going to speak to him because he's. Let's divert the chat away from what Reds is. I'm pretty sure we'll be demonetized forever. So let's go with the description I used for flat earthers when I was first asked by Conspiracy Cat. So what do you think of flat earthers? My answer was slack-jawed, spittle-flecked halfwits.
And that's the nice version. That's the non-demonetizable version.
That's the non-demonetizable version.
Slack-jawed, spittle-flecked. What was the last part?
Halfwits. I think I actually said lackwits on the...
Lackwits.
That's great. So Mr. Malor says, I want to talk about Witsit being a prophet.
He isn't. Moving on.
He
isn't. He isn't a prophet. Moving on.
I would like to thank Nerd Angle for appreciating. Thank you. Modding that chat was intense. That was. It was. I got a serious hand workout, especially when Sean was like, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, God.
That non-apology thing.
The non, and like everyone in the chat, even you guys, I was messaging Johnny in the background, going like just talking to him back and forth while he's doing it. I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. I still want to know how the fuck he was able to sign a lease with no income verification.
So so here's the thing. It wasn't a new lease, right? It was a renewal. Lease renewal does not require income verification on a lease renewal.
So he just renewed his lease.
Right.
Basic trigonometry is wondering what I called him earlier today, and it was a slack ass monarchist pommy piece of shit. That's what I called you.
Well, when he pulled
it worked. But it worked anyway.
But when he pulled, when he pulled that whole bullshit, it was just everyone erupted at it. It didn't help that they're like half of Unirock's followers were in there with us.
Oh yeah. Oh hey Crafty, she says I've been kind of listening. I agree with Tony 100%.
Thank you, Keela.
Yep.
It's always good to. Jessica G apparently wants to punch me in the scrotum if I was reading the chat earlier. Right, but it's nice that somebody's on my side. But
why are we touching PhD scrotum?
Apparently, my rocking in the chair was annoying her.
Oh, okay, all right. Theo Fun Guy says the only person even close to a prophet was Isaac Asimov. Probably butchered that name, as he just used intelligence and the pace of humanity.
Well,
Theo Fun Guy.
Yeah.
It's not American. I don't fucking know.
Theo, I think
I'm
think he very much was American, but you misspelled Isaac. No K for Asimov.
Well, I didn't know PhD Tony was an English teacher.
You'd be surprised. I got into a debate with a flat earther on Planetwalk's channel, and he's gone, and he made various statements about, you don't know your history, you don't know and then he claimed that, the spherical Earth was an invention by the Christians in 500 BC. And just going, what are you even talking about? Like, there were no Christians in 500 BC. That's what the B stands for.
I like the before Common Era, BCE.
Yeah, no, but when they say BC, they're talking about Christians. That is kind of funny.
And before Christ.
Yeah. No, I just think it's funny. I'm more focusing on what Tony was talking about, the logical inconsistency of saying the Christians that were around since 500 BC.
Yeah, that's right. So you can't have Christians before Christ, really.
It's kind of how that works.
Kind of how it works.
That's not how anything works.
But it wasn't just Christians. It was actually Catholics, and that's
specifically.
It was specifically Catholics that he was interested in, and
they definitely didn't exist before Christ.
That's like Kyle. But in my video, I don't even know if you watched it, PhD Tony, but
not yet. No, but
it's okay. But he makes the inference that the Teldan Steely, it's the Mesha Steely. It's basically a base old 3-foot base old rock with a bunch of carvings in it. That it confirms the Bible, when in actuality, what was written in the Bible came 300 years after this thing was created. So it was actually made, and then the Bible just wrote down. So Jeremiah, who supposedly wrote that chapter, just copied what the thing said, because it existed for 3 centuries before Jeremiah even put pen to paper. So he's like, but it confirms the Bible's authenticity, its absolute historical accuracy. It's like, no, it doesn't, dumbass. Just means some asshole read something, said it sounds cool, and put it in a book.
Yeah, that's the level of just that guy. I made this point, and why does everybody with that accent believe what he believes? Not everybody, but people who believe what he believes have that accent. That stupid Southern charm.
I hated the way it's like dancing on the line between what did I say to somebody? It was like dumbing down and talking down.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know how
That is
Tony
nice.
how Tony talks to us.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, Colon, good to see you there, buddy.
Yes, good to see. Great to see Colin. Yeah. Well, I mean, sorry, I'm an arrogant son of a bitch. What can I say?
No.
So, Mr. Malore wants to know why boyfriend and girlfriend share accounts. 20 plus years married, we still have mostly separate accounts. He says mostly, so that tells me you have a joint account. It tells me you pay all of your bills out of the joint account, which also tells me you have your separate accounts that you have feed into the joint account.
Wait,
See
what?
where we're getting here? Mr. Malore is asking. He's asking random questions, and I'm trying to answer them as I see them.
Why do boyfriend?
So-
why do what is boyfriend
So
girlfriend?
he's referring to Sean Hufford's situation where his account, he went to a funeral, and I have to say, like, if you're strapped for cash, don't buy a plane ticket to go to a funeral. If you feel you really need to go to a funeral, you can travel by bus, but just
$36
skip
for a
it.
bus ride.
Just skip it and say, look, I'm really, I just can't afford it. I wish I could, but my circumstances just don't permit it. People will understand.
But he wasn't going there for a funeral.
Was he not?
No,
I thought that he was.
He was going there to see if he and Cy Strikeling were going to be a match.
Hmm.
He was going for love.
For love.
Well, it's
Stop love, man.
It is, and to some extent, I feel like his girlfriend's actions have been, to some extent, calumniated, because, like, okay, so that you're shacked up with somebody who has been defrauding people, and he is using the money he has misappropriated to go and see this other girl.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a good chance that he's going to, he said that stuff is going to happen for you, that you're going to end up with some of this money. But why would you trust him? Why would you, if you know what's going on with this situation, why do you not say, okay, well, I've got an opportunity to get out of here with some money, and I'm not sure that he's actually going to give it to me. So, even if we accept Sean's account of what happened, which isn't by any stretch of the imagination a given, it's not it's not actually an entirely unreasonable sequence of events for the girlfriend to take, particularly since the money was placed in her account.
Right.
It's actually, it's not, compared to what Sean did, absolutely nothing wrong with what she did. She just took money out of her account. And Sean was treating it like it was some sort of outrage.
Right. As I understood it, that money was supposed to, the reason for the fundraiser was to get him where he needed to be and get her where she needed to be. So why wouldn't she expect to take that money to get where she needed to be?
Yeah. It's, but no, it just, very little of what Sean said made sense. And given, I was saying this yesterday, given how meticulous he is on, in constructing experiments and filming them and, preempting FLIRF objections and that sort of stuff, he's very, very careful about setting everything up and making sure that it's infallible. That clarity of thinking was gone. There was absolutely none.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave.
Yeah, so the cheapest price, that's the thing. I just looked up bus ride from Indianapolis, Indiana to Newark, New Jersey, which would have been $130 is what it would have cost them round trip.
Yeah. Cheaper than a plane.
Yeah.
It's just
But
We-
I have
we can-
made the Greyhound trips cross country before, and they fucking suck.
they
But I
do.
still
I
would have
mean,
done it to save money if I needed to go.
Exactly. I mean, yes, making a Greyhound trip is, deeply unpleasant. Well, certainly compared to flying. Flying is over in, half an hour or an hour or whatever, unless you're going from one side of the country to the other. But it's just got nothing to do. You're supposed to be saving money here. You're supposed to be, you know, you're supposed to be keeping things, reasonable. And that isn't reasonable. That's not a reasonable expenditure. It's like he didn't, just his attitude towards that money, like he didn't feel like he had to make it last. He didn't feel like he had to make it, he, maximize its utility. He just,
Right.
he was just okay with blowing it, really.
Yeah, it seemed a little, like I said, there's a lot of just logical inconsistencies and things that just don't add up. They didn't make sense to me. There's a lot of holes in the story.
Did at least any love come out of this?
Well, Cy Strikling didn't dump him like a hot potato when he confessed to her, so I guess she must like him.
At least a little bit. I'll be right back, gents.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that was one of the other things, was he never once sort of mentioned that he dragged Cy Strikling into the middle of a shit NATO.
Yeah.
I feel like, aside from, just betraying her confidence to some extent, she's in a deeply compromised position with a lot of the community now, and she's done, as far as I can tell, has done nothing to deserve that. And I mean, if she's choosing to stand by Sean, that's fine. That's a personal loyalty issue. That doesn't necessarily mean that she approves of what he's done. I intend to react to Cy Strikling as I always have. I don't intend to change my attitude towards her, but my attitude towards Sean is now tempered by significant reservations about his ethical status. I still respect his intellect. I still respect his abilities. I still think he has a terrific voice, but in terms of ethics, I think he's
Someone
kind of
who, but people wouldn't be remiss if the attitude towards Cy Strikling changed because you aid and abet that kind of behavior, or you're able to justify it. And basically, he did what he did, and he actually dragged her, like you said, into a compromised situation. Now she is at odds because of his situation. He's done this to her, but to stick by him and to make that stand and be like, you know what, this is the hill I'll die on. I wouldn't say.
I mean, it goes both ways, right? I mean, women do stick with men who have cheated on them, for instance, who have, or have betrayed their trust in other fashions, and men do stick with women who have betrayed them in a number of fashions. It's just when we commit to a relationship with an individual, we do accept that there will be some flaws, that they're not going to always comport themselves in the way we would prefer, and we're going to put up with that. So, I'm just saying that, like, there are, sort of the social standards are different a little,
It's why it's weird. That's a difficult conversation to have, because obviously we don't want to victim blame, and we're not putting any blame on Cy. He, by virtue of his actions, he harmed her image. and dragged her name through the mud. And now she's put in the difficult position of having to choose between the community and I guess her man. So I get that that's difficult and everything, but when you choose to do that, you choose to say, yeah, he did this and this was bad. You choose to stick by him, that's kind of a tacit, just what's the word I'm looking for? You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, tacit approval or acceptance or
endorsement. It's like a tacit or approval of what he's done. Like it's like in some way, it's okay. Defrauding people or lying to people and then defaming and then dragging my name through the mud and damaging my image is not a deal breaker for us.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to judge somebody else's approach to how they, it's. Mm-hmm. I don't think that it is Cy Strikling's job to judge and punish Sean. And I don't think that it is reasonable for us to take.
Well, we're assuming that hasn't happened. She must do so.
The last I heard, it hadn't happened. There was still an item. But
no. Hang on a second. We're assuming that they haven't had some sort of argument or discussion, or we're assuming that there's been zero accountability from Cy Strickland to Sean Harper. That's really none of our business.
That is, yeah, and I certainly don't expect her to make any criticism she has of Sean in public, and so
right.
I kind of think that really we just need to leave her out of it completely.
I agree.
And just whatever she chooses to do, that's her decision, and it deserves respect. I think that Sean has put her in a very difficult position, and I think less of Sean for doing that, but how she responds and how her relationship with Sean is impacted by that is entirely a matter for them, and none of my business.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Dave space comma N. If she was eating the Grubhub meals, then she is complicit. I got the impression actually that was not the case. She was not eating the Grubhub meals.
Well, she wasn't living with him at that time.
She wasn't living with him at the time that he was using Grubhub. However many times a day he was using Grubhub. That was his other. That was Deb, I think, was the name that was being thrown around. I can't honestly recall. But whoever it was, cohabiting with him then.
Right.
They were in the process of separating at that point.
Yeah. All right, we got to finish the stream with something fun, light.
We do.
It's been very heavy for the last
an hour and a half. What a short stream.
I didn't say we're going to finish right now. I said we're going to talk about something that's like 30. Yeah, we're going to go 30 minutes of puppies and rainbows. Okay.
Oh, you know what it is? Irish hasn't been here. Just totally like dragging shit out and taking for fucking forever. So not understanding things.
So yeah.
So what kind of puppies and rainbows stories do we have?
Puppies and rainbows. Oh well, Jessica and I have been doing gaming streams together, as you will know, because on your show you featured fake audio of one of the exchanges.
Look. I trust my field reporters. They said they verified the audio.
You have a documented record of publishing fake audio. Crafty Keeler and Irish Demon are on record as attesting to this. Just putting it out there.
Yes, but I also have a documented record of admitting to that being fake audio. Therefore.
But you didn't admit it at the time. You admitted it later. So,
And here's the thing. Here's the thing. That's not fake audio. That really is Irish Demon and Craft Tequila in a conversation saying the words that they're saying.
Yes, that is true. But they said that it wasn't.
They said it wasn't, but they also come back and said, yes, it was. So there you go.
Well, yeah.
Ooh. Step up and play spades with me, sir. I got all the trump cards.
But that's been going well, and the Star Wars streams that we're thinking of are going to have to wait for a little bit until Crafty has more stable internet. But that is something we are working towards.
What is this I'm reading in the chat? Jay, apparently we're going hunting with foe and demon.
Well, there you go. You heard it here. It's news to me.
It's absolutely news to me.
I think it's the demon wants to go hunting, and there are some places where we can, because we don't need tags for feral hogs because of the feral hog population problem that we have in the good old state of Texas. So I think that's what
Dave Space comma N is making stuff up. We could talk about how well PhD Tony supported Jessica in her gameplay. That didn't happen. Just
Yep.
They don't call me PhD luggage for nothing.
Nerd Angle wants to see me debate someone on the existence of ghosts. Well, I'll debate someone who believes that they exist, and I'll shut that shit down.
Oh no! They want you to say that. Look, JL Warren, just you got to push back into it, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh! No, I'm tired of leaning into it. My legs hurt.
Ease into it. Just take it.
The reality is what I should have said was this. I do not doubt that you had an experience, but I seriously doubt your interpretation of that experience.
But what you said was...
That is what I should have said.
But what you said was, because of some space force, there could be ghosts.
No, I did not. What space force? What is this?
I'm being hyperbolic.
Space force.
That's what I heard. Space force.
I was reading some articles this week, working on my Young Earth Creationist thing, about whether or not half-lives of elements could change in response to environmental factors. And there were some papers that suggested that there was some heretofore unknown cosmophysical force that might influence half-lives. But it seems more likely that there's some problem with their experimental setup that they haven't yet identified.
I think JL's about to show us his true form here in a second.
I think he might do.
Here it comes. Pay attention to the stream.
Not
well. So, but the thing is that I think JL misexpressed himself when he was talking about quantum effects. But what he was saying was not, in fact, incorrect. And I was just explaining this. It's not, in fact, impossible that there could be ghosts. It's just that we have no evidence whatsoever to support that hypothesis. All of the evidence we have can be explained away without accepting that. But it's not impossible. It may turn out that there is some, and as soon as we can explain a phenomenon, it stops being supernatural, and it's just natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it is. It may be the case that there are phenomena that we now regard as supernatural that may one day just be considered some explicable physical phenomenon. Doesn't seem likely, but it's not impossible. And so, I think that's what JL was trying to say. And it seems a bit unfair that's ghosts definitely, that's been transformed into JL said ghosts definitely exist.
Good.
Okay, here we go. JL back to his regular form. Oh, right as he's drinking his ghost drink. I mean, his monster.
Yeah.
Disembodied spirits do not exist.
There's no evidence to support disembodied experiments.
Okay, there's no evidence to support the existence of disembodied spirits.
Yeah.
There we go.
There.
That's JL's way. That's JL's way of leaving himself an out for when it comes out that ghosts really do exist. And he'd be like, "See, I told you they were real."
You remind. I've got to have told you the joke about the physicist, the astrophysicist, and the mathematician going to.
That sounds like a real knee slapper. But let's
on a train into on a train into Scotland, and they cross over the Scottish border, and there's a black sheep, and the astrophysicist says, "Wow, I didn't know that all sheep in Scotland are black." And the physicist says, "I don't what are you even talking about? All we know is that sheep is black." And the mathematician goes, "What? How did you reach? Are you guys completely insane? All we know is that side of that thing that looks like a sheep appears to be black from where we are now." And it's sort of, if you know how astrophysicists work, it's kind of funny, but it also points out, we proceed under cognitive assumptions all the time, and we don't call them into question. But if you're being formally correct, we don't know that a lot of stuff is impossible. We don't know that the sun won't rise tomorrow. We don't know that we've got gravity completely correct. We don't know that we don't know a lot of what we don't know. That I guess that's the line.
We don't know a lot of what we don't know.
Yes.
Yes, we do make assumptions about various things, but those assumptions are based upon strong degrees of certainty with regard to either the predictive models or the evidence in hand. That's all it is.
Jessica G
Let me
says,
just tell
you have been infected by the Irish demon virus.
Yes, that was a huge turd and a flop, Muffin Top. All I can say is that it lays them in the aisles if they know how astrophysicists work.
Clive Wells says that you ruined a good joke.
Okay, well, thank you, Clive. High praise indeed.
Oh man. So we're past the point of JL believing in ghosts. Now it's JL's denying the evidence of his belief, or not of his belief, but denying the evidence that ghosts exist. Thus leaving him out to believe in ghosts.
No, it's not leaving me out to believe in ghosts. It's intellectual honesty.
Look how mad he's getting. He's fired up, that JL Warren. I gotta get him ready. I gotta get him jacked up a Mountain Dew, because he and Fohammer have a debate. They got a debate tonight, so I gotta get I gotta rile him up a little bit, shake the can, so to speak, and then throw it at fucking bomb.
I gotta be honest, and because I debate a lot of theists. I debate theists and the Bible, very like that.
Yeah.
That's actually really, really easy by comparison. I can sit here and say that trying to debating the historicity of the Bible or the accuracy of the Bible, or whether or not God exists or something of that nature, is actually really, really easy compared to this debate. This is by far the hardest debate I've ever entertained. I did not anticipate it being this difficult.
Because it's good to give yourself a challenge.
Yeah, and it is challenging because it's not a black and white subject. There is as much emotion in it as there is statistical information and evidence.
Right.
You've got everything coming down from demographics to what the law states, and the fact that there is a line of demarcation between federal law and state law, because states can choose whatever they do. It has a huge effect on these statistics. So this is a toughie. It really is. I'm still on the side that I chose. I'm still on the side for massive gun reform, just because I think that we've come to a critical point. But it's not easy. This is not an easy conversation to have. I can imagine. I mean, I have a better understanding now of why it's so difficult in Congress to get any movement anywhere on this shit, especially
the only
in
reason
the
why
face-
it's difficult in Congress is because there's too much money involved. Take the money
I
out of
was- I
it.
was
Take the
about to
lobbying
say,
out of it. I'm sorry. I didn't
Yeah,
mean to
no,
shit
I
on
was-
the parade.
No, it's okay. No, I agree with you. I was about to say because of the effect of corporate and private lobbyists who are lobbying for manufacturers and for distributors. That's just that makes it even worse. But it's a tough one, and I hope I can. It's a good challenge. And I hope I can live up to it.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really informative and educational. I know those are two words that mean the same thing, but I had to say it twice because I think it's going to be doubly educational.
It's just, I mean, the thing that concerns me is that it is as much emotional as it is evidentiary.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I mean, and I don't, you don't want to get into, you have to be able to acknowledge both sides of it without getting too emotional oneself. And fuck, dude, I'm really curious. I'm curious as to how the hell it's gonna go.
Well, so this is the reason why it's good to have this particular debate as a structured and moderated debate, because it reduces the amount of emotion exchange, so to speak. You know what I mean? So it gives everybody time to not have to worry about, well, I could be interrupted with this person's that or that person's this and whatnot. It gives I've got my 10-minute opener to lay out my position, my points, and then I've got the question and answer, which is moderated, and then there's at the end there's going to be the question and answer with the audience and the open discussion portion, which that might be the only part that could get a little emotionally charged, but this way this debate lets people kind of get into the nitty-gritty.
So I have a question for JL, and I'm interested to hear his answer because I don't see this in terms of it being an American phenomenon. In the sense that if you look at other countries, they don't have the problems the US does. So I'm wondering why a state-by-state dissection is necessary to establish the point. And I'd also ask the question, one of the things that is often brought up is that you need weapons to protect yourself against the government. Well, an AR-15 isn't going to protect you against the government. Furthermore, how often in the history of the US has the average citizen needed to protect themselves from the government?
The argument there could be that, well, because we're an armed population, that means the government doesn't want to try anything.
There are people that would argue it's a powerful deterrent, that the possession of firearms, deters the government, especially when there is legitimately a gun in this country for every man, woman, and child that exists, with plenty left over.
2.5 per.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So,
yes, but
absolutely
most of those are owned. But most of those are owned by a tiny portion of the population who average about 10 guns each or something.
Right.
This is true. But in the face of technology today, if the American government decided to rise up against the American people wouldn't stand a chance. Why? Because the American government has predator drones and the American populace does not. The guns are it's a personal thing. It literally is just for my own personal edification. I want guns because guns make me feel powerful, and guns allow me to hunt my own food, and guns allow me to defend my property against anybody who would come in, including the government. And that's all it is. It's legitimately, and it's everything that the gun provides, aside from the potential of self-defense, is literally illusory. The statistics bore out, regardless of the state of the demographics, that almost 80% of violent gun deaths result from a spontaneous usage of the weapon simply being available.
Yep.
Yeah.
There are just guns everywhere. And odds are you're going to run into somebody who's got one. And then when you couple that with the fact that the vast majority of gun deaths result from people who know each other and who are in domestic disputes, and then we have to also take out suicide as well, suicide by gun. But when it comes down to it, it's literally
why are you taking that out?
Well, suicides don't factor into violent into mass murder.
I don't care. Tightly regulate, much more tightly regulated guns in Australia, and the suicide rate plummeted as a result. Because if you don't have a gun in the house, you have to actually work for it. If you've got a gun in the house, it's very easy.
I'm gonna make you work for it, mate. You gotta go out there and find yourself a snake.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, and Irish Demon does claim to have a terrible migraine, but that hasn't stopped him making a stupid comment. So
okay. So
wait a minute, stop. We were supposed to be talking puppies and rainbows. Look what we've done to ourselves.
I'll close it up. I typically, when talking about what I consider the health issue of mass violence with guns, especially mass shootings, mass murder, I consider it to be a health issue because of the wide-ranging ramifications that these events have on the population. It's not just a one-on-one thing where it's like I commit a crime, there's it's me, there's a victim, and it's all cut and dry. There is a burst effect to a mass shooting. You have the fallout, obviously the fallout from each of the individual victims, their immediate families, but there's also an economic fallout. There is a social order fallout. There is a trust fallout with the police. Social programs begin to break down because we don't feel safe that they're doing the job they're supposed to be doing. There is a wide fallout for every mass shooting. And the fact that America averages a mass shooting a day is not acceptable. That is an untenable fact. And so the reason I treat it like this, and I don't really factor in suicide, is because with guns or not, a suicidal person is going to commit, a determined person to commit suicide is going to do it anyway. Gun or not, they're going to die. They're going to commit suicide.
But what about somebody who's marginal? So, I mean, I speak from personal experience. If I'd had a gun in my house at any point, I wouldn't be here. And you can say, well, a determined person, take guns away and then think, yes, a really determined person, but actually a lot of those techniques suck. They really hurt, or they're deeply unpleasant. But guns aren't. They're very easy and they're very quick and they're very certain. Well, yes, you can, but they're still very, very easy. And, compare it to your alternatives. Your alternatives just aren't pleasant. We have the statistics. We brought in the gun laws. Suicide rates dropped. It's that easy. We've done the experiment. We've got the data. If you make it harder to get to a gun, you make it harder to commit suicide, and people have to be the determined threshold rises, right? Yes, somebody who is sufficiently determined, but before you made the guns hard, they only had to be this determined.
He's like the Arby's of science. We have the data. I didn't know if that commercial rang with anybody except for me. But
I know the commercial.
I think my own personal point. The reason I don't look at the suicide rates, and I don't include the suicide rates in these, is because I believe in a person's right to die. If an individual wants to, they should have the right to do so, and that doesn't factor into spontaneous mass murders due to like rage or mental instability of that nature. If someone wants, if a dude has a gun and wants to take himself out, that's one thing. But if a guy is mentally unstable and wants to take out, as many people as he can before he takes himself out, then Like he was just looking for a reason to justify his own suicide. Well, I'm not going to spend my life in prison, so I'm just going to kill myself because I did all this crap. Like what just happened in Indianapolis a few days ago.
Yeah.
The reality of it is that sure, we could ban guns, or we could do all this, and then the suicide rates may in fact plummet because people won't have that accessibility. But the individuals who really do want to, they deserve the right to choose to do so. And thinking this is, oh well,
no, they don't.
They don't deserve the right to end their own lives.
No,
I feel that
not
they do.
Not unless they can convince an impartial person that they're thinking rationally.
It doesn't matter. Their own personal life.
Yes, it does.
No. Their own personal life is their own personal life. If they choose, if they are in a state that they choose to end it because of whatever suffering,
frankly, that is the idiotic nattering of somebody who doesn't suffer serious depression. Depression is an illness that is trying to kill you. And I've been in a situation where it's tried to kill me, and it seemed like dying was the only way out, and I acted on that impulse, and I ended up receiving therapy. And I'm better because I now understand that there is a disease that is trying to kill me. And if you're saying, well, they should just be allowed, the disease should just be allowed to function without any intervention by a trained professional or any assessment of the individual. No, if that were the case, I'd be dead. And, lots of people would die who shouldn't die because depression is a vicious disease.
Tony, that is a huge jump that you just made. Number one,
no,
I did not say that people who suffer from clinical depression, okay, which I don't.
Well, you're suggesting that anybody who wants to.
Can I finish? So number one, I myself have been suicidal in the past. I have come very, very close. My choice was a knife, okay, but I did not go through with it. So by any stroke, and I received no therapy for it as well. Maybe I'm one of those lucky individuals who was able to logic my way out of the situation. Maybe I had a last moment epiphany. I have no idea. But I did not go to therapy for it. I was suicidal over one event, and that was it. I had one extraordinarily low moment in my life. Now, I don't suffer from clinical depression. No. Do I think that clinically depressed people who suffer from clinical depression should just be able to willy-nilly kill themselves and not, absolutely not. Okay.
Well, stop them in the model you just put up with.
Never mind. Okay, so a person who suffers from clinical depression, all right, I am not taking away their ability to think. I'm not taking away their ability to reason, but they do suffer from a mental illness that does require treatment if they want to live a stable life, if they want to live a productive life. Otherwise, they're constantly in this rut, and they're going to want to they're probably going to be stuck with suicidal ideation. The thing is, if a person doesn't want to die, but they suffer from depression, they will seek help, just like you did.
After my suicide attempt, which was fortunately unsuccessful. But if I'd had a gun, it wouldn't have been. So your argument is that it's okay to let, and at that point I was undiagnosed. Like, I didn't go and get help. I was committed. Well, I wasn't committed, actually. It was voluntary. But, if you're undiagnosed with severe depression and you've got a gun handy, it's over, right? It's not and so this is why I think that, your argument that people should just have the right to do it if they feel like they're suffering. No, a depressed person may not understand certainly doesn't understand that there is a disease trying to kill them. I can testify to this from firsthand, and they don't have a rational understanding of their situation. And so, no, I don't think that taking that means away from them. Yes, if somebody really, really has a very good reason, certainly, you can make the argument that they should have access to euthanasia. Fine. But that's a different argument from saying that that an undiagnosed, clinically depressed person should have unrestricted access to a firearm.
I'm not saying that they should.
I just wanted on the record that I wanted to talk about puppies and rainbows.
mental illness checks need psychological testing. Mental illness checks need to be a part of the gun ownership process, and I argue for that. Okay, to avoid particular things. But if a person doesn't want to live, that is their choice and their right. Whether or not I can't put myself in their experience, I can't say that I experienced this. Okay, if a person looks at the future of their life and says it's going to be a lifetime of pills, a lifetime of therapy, and a lifetime of feeling like I'm in a gray zone where nothing real, where I'm just kind of like and nothing, I don't really feel anything because I'm so numbed out, so that I don't commit suicide, and someone chooses, I'm looking at a future of that or this, and they choose this, I have no right to tell them that they can't do that. No one has a right to tell them that they can't do that. If someone chooses
you have a right to suggest that they should be required to convince people that they're making a rational decision, because a person can be making the same exact decision irrationally.
Yes, I agree. Irrational beliefs lead to irrational behaviors. When people believe in irrational things, it will lead them to do irrational things. If someone irrationally believes that their life is worthless and it may lead to them having suicidal ideation, they may kill themselves, that is irrational. But I will always tell people that they are free to believe what they want to believe, but be aware that your thoughts and whatever that irrational shit leads to irrational behavior. But I'm not going to stand in the way and try to control somebody. I'm not going to exert my will over theirs just because I think that they're being irrational.
Well, then you don't understand mental health problems.
I do understand mental health problems. I have schizophrenic people in my family.
Well, then, I don't understand your position. Like, are you saying that if a schizophrenic person decided to commit suicide, you go, oh, well, go for it, or would you require that they're not in some, they're not in the grip of some temporary psychosis? I mean, you have to have some check on whether or not.
Now you're asking me that say my cousin who is schizophrenic came to me and said and had a gun in his hand, was like, I'm going to kill myself. He's going to do it in front of me. Okay, and then obviously I'm just sit there. Whoa! I'm going to try and talk to him. But if he puts the gun to his head and pulls the trigger, I can't stop that. Now, if he comes to me and tries to do this in front of me and like that, then I may be inclined to think that he probably doesn't want to do this because if he wanted to do it, he would have just done it in his bedroom, and you wouldn't have made a big show of it. So maybe there's an argument there, and maybe I'll try and talk him down. But if he does, he does.
Relating this back to gun control, which was the point of stepping off, right? The argument is whether or not letting irrational people who are prone to suicidal ideations have access to firearms is a good idea, and whether or not making access to firearms more difficult will reduce suicide rates.
Yeah.
And your claim is that apparently me wanting to stop people from committing suicide quite so readily is somehow infringing their civil liberties in some fashion.
No, it's not that civil liberties. It's just that I don't use it as part of the argumentation because I don't think that we should ban guns to limit the suicide rate. I don't think given
that. Okay, so let me ask you a question. I plot to kill somebody. I plot to get them drunk so that their cognition is slow. I take them to an isolated place where I'm not likely to be disturbed, and then I try and kill them. Okay. Is that a right thing to do?
Is that
why is it different?
A right thing
Why-
or a moral
yeah,
thing?
Why is it? Why should I be allowed to do that?
Well,
Why
you're
is that
technically-
good?
You're technically not. It's against the law.
Okay, but why is it suddenly okay if the person I'm trying to kill is me?
Because you are exerting will over that's your own will. You're not exerting your will over somebody else.
Provided I am in a fit mental state to make that determination, which I may well not be. I don't think that certainly leaving it up to individuals with a gun handy, with a gun right there, so that again your situation, your argument is most gun usage is spontaneous. It isn't premeditated. It's just in the moment. How many suicides do you think fall into that category? That it's just a matter of having the right tool to hand when you're in a really low point.
I actually would. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I would actually hazard from my studies that it's not suicidal ideation. Nice picture, Johnny. Suicidal ideation typically is a long time burden before somebody actually acts on it, and it takes time to build. So, but in that build time, they're thinking about how to do it and looking for the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, and if they've got a gun there, it's not a it's not a deal. I know how it it is the number one. Guns have one purpose, and that is to kill a person.
Yes.
And if I want a person dead, a gun is a perfect tool. If I want myself dead, the gun is the ideal tool for that. So I don't see I don't see how 2/3 of all lethal gunshot wounds in the US are self-inflicted, and pretending that making guns harder to get or certainly harder to access won't reduce the number of suicides is fallacious reasoning.
No, I didn't say that it wouldn't reduce the number of suicides. It most likely will, but I don't think that should be the reason or one of the reasons why we should do this. Because I think Sandy Hook, and I think Florida, and I think Columbine, and I think all of these are the reasons that far outweigh whether somebody wants to commit suicide.
That's yes. I quite agree. They are vastly more important reasons for gun control, but that doesn't justify the fact that suicide prevention is one of the reasons. And I didn't get around to explaining to Irish Demon why his Afghanistan simile was quite so stupid. Afghanistan has a very unique topography and cultural background that the US does not have. You can't go and hide in the mountains of Idaho or Ohio from the authorities and rely on your sheer remoteness and lack of infrastructure to get there. Also, the vast majority of Americans like living in houses with internet access, electricity, and a Walmart nearby. I doubt that the American population is going to en masse decide that they all want to hang out in Montana, sharing this, digging their own fucking toilets. So the idea that sort of the Afghan insurgency is that sort of thing, and if the American government has become so despotic, so dysfunctional that the U.S. armed forces are out and about, and you're in armed conflict with them, then they've got biological weapons, they've got bombers, they've got thermonuclear weapons, for God's sake. Your AR-15. One of the reasons that America hasn't used thermonuclear weapons is because using them on other countries might let other countries use them on the US. But if the US government goes off the rails and has a problem that it can't handle with a particular city, they may well just decide, well, we'll nuke that one, and the others will learn the lesson, because we've got a lot of these things, it turns out, and they're very handy for killing people. So if you are in a full-on war, if the people of the United States end up in full-on military conflict with the government's going to win. It's not going to be like Afghanistan. The American government is not going to have the limitations that it faced in Afghanistan. It's not going to have a hostile, native population that is sabotaging them. It's not going to have difficult terrain throughout the country. It's not going to have a lack of infrastructure, and it's not going to have any limitations on the amount of force that it can use. It's already, they've already jumped the shark. Why not use all of the weapons at their disposal? So this Afghanistan simile that people keep on throwing around, I just think is stupid. It just doesn't apply in any sense to the situation that would be the case if, the American population is in military conflict against the US Army. No, your AR-15 is useless to you in that situation. And I'm sorry, and I understand that people don't agree with me, but it's a fatuous argument.
Predator drones. That's what it's all about. Predator drones. Fires.
Anyway.
But nonetheless, you can view it as a reduction in suicide rates. Is an added bonus of gun reform or gun control or or whatever. You can look at it as an added bonus, and that's great. That's fine, sure. I don't want people running around killing each other willy-nilly like the fucking Pulse, all right? But I'm not going to put it as a part of my argumentation because I staunchly advocate for a person's right to choose.
But that's a different issue, right?
You're right. That's why I'm not considering it into my debate. Well, you can look at it as like an added bonus. Sure, we developed gun control, massive gun control, sweeping gun bans and gun control. Great. The suicide rates will go down. All the better. I'm just not using it as a part of my argumentation.
Yeah, Jessica G has brought up personal experience that sort of contradicts my argument, but a lot of my personal experience is that people do use guns if they have them around. So I'm just wondering whether or not you live in a state with harsher gun control laws or whatever. It depends. It depends a lot. Banning guns, tighter gun controls won't remove suicides. Won't ever. And that's true.
It won't eliminate them, but it may reduce them.
But it may reduce them. It does. Our evidence, the evidence from Australia is that it did reduce the number of suicides, and particularly male suicides. It turns out, women tend, for some reason, to prefer not to use guns for suicide. Don't exactly know the reasoning there, but anyway,
they don't like to leave a mess.
That's what it is. Even when they're contemplating that, they don't want to leave a mess for somebody else to clean up. Such a terrible joke. God bless America. Puppies and kittens. Look at that. Puppies, rainbows, and kittens.
I see that. Yep. That puppy and that kitten in there.
That kitten is trying to kill that puppy.
Murder.
That's what that face is. Look at those eyes. Those are eyes of a killer, right there. Look.
Well, that cats aren't. Cats have sort of domesticated themselves. Twice. They don't really. They haven't been domesticated by people. They decided that they would put up with people in order to get access to the rodents that were eating the people's cereal.
Mm-hmm.
And the people like that, and the cats like that, but not really dedicated.
That's fair. All right. Well, on that puppies and rainbows note, that brings a conclusion to another episode of the Four Beardsmen of the Apocalypse. After we have thoroughly derailed the puppies and rainbows portion of the show.
Oh, what do we do? What do we do?
Hang on one second, Tony. I'm refreshing. There we go. Good. Good, Tony.
JL has a Week in Horror podcast that he broadcasts on YouTube. That is coming up on Wednesday evening his time, I think, and it has an amazing bunch of people in the chat. I think Kevin Paul is one who turns up every now and again. Jessica G, myself, other people. Yes, and it's a really good show. And this particular week, it actually has 3 really, really good movies and one movie that really I don't like.
This is a very diplomatic way of saying it sucked.
Let me see if I can guess. So if I go, what the movies that we're talking about this week? Let's see. This is April 25th to May 1st. I'm gonna say you didn't like Wind Chill, but you liked Identity, Dark Song, and Idle Hands.
No, you're wrong. The movie I didn't like was Identity.
Really?
I was gonna say it had to be Identity, because who doesn't want to see Jessica Alba running around half naked? I mean, who doesn't enjoy a movie about a hand that murders people?
Wait, what?
That's a different. You're thinking of a different movie.
I know it's a different movie, you jackass.
But I hate movies that get multiple personality. I hate movies that get multiple personality disorder wrong.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Identity is seriously one of those. It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It doesn't work like that. Nothing works like that.
Nothing doesn't work like that at all. No. The same thing was. So you must not have liked Split then.
Split. I did have some time for because of the demonstrably supernatural elements in it. So I did have time for Split.
I will say that I kind of agree with you on Identity, not because of how bad it gets, the multiple personality. What do they call it now? There's a different designation for it.
Dissociative identity disorder. Yeah,
that's it. But because it was so predictable, it was so easy to figure out what was going on. We all have the same birthday. What? Oh, okay. That figured it out.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of... It's a little kid. Little kid's a killer. Figured it out. So simple. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the little, well...
little kid, able to overpower Jake Busey and ram a baseball bat down his throat. Yeah. All little kids can do that.
Well, no, it was the kid is the manifestation of his rage. The kid was more powerful than all the other characters.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
See, this is the puppies and rainbows section. Little kid beats a man to death with a baseball bat.
He didn't just beat him to death with a baseball bat. He shoved it halfway down his throat, which is fucking insane.
Wait, was it a baseball bat?
It was a baseball bat.
Did the guy die?
Yes.
The guy died.
Yes.
Beaten to death with a baseball bat. Damn it.
Well, he might have been choked to death. It's hard to tell.
That's true.
It is hard to tell. All we know is that kid's arm reach could not have pulled that off.
No. He must have been standing on stilts or something.
So, and then there's, evidence and bodies disappear. There's evidence in some cases and there's not evidence in other cases. And, there's people disappearing and, they're just like, okay, so there's no rules in this. So why is anybody even bothering with it? Like, so anything can happen. Anyone can do anything. You just need to think really hard about it.
Kind of like
Great
Chucky,
writing.
a
Great
fucking
writing,
doll can overpower a grown man. Yeah, I never understood the Chucky movies. They were just fun.
They were just fun, yeah.
Anyway, so that's what
how Chucky can retain his strength.
Yeah.
And yet still be a doll.
Still be a doll. Yep.
because it's his soul.
Well, but then how does a little kid overpower him? See, doesn't
What do you mean?
make
How does
any
the little
sense.
kid overpower? The little kid doesn't overpower. He can pick him up because he's technically still a doll. Physically, Chucky is a doll, but his spirit retains its strength. So he can struggle with him, but it's still a matter of just because
Is
you're
this
strong.
a part of your ghost
he has
beliefs?
he has doll arms, and therefore he lacks leverage.
So he's Courtney Cox, not Courtney Cox, Courtney Love.
Like,
Where are the
I
Where are
attribute it
the
very much
nerd police?
to this funny ass video that I watched of this guy who was kind of like the two guys at the gym. One guy is kind of like soft and is kind of doughy, whatever, and the other guy next to him is like just straight up fucking jacked, like straight jacked. And then the challenge was to pull a piece of paper off of your back, like a sticky note off of your back. And so the doughy guy was like, and he got the piece. He was like, good to go. Then they put it on the muscle dudes, and he was like, I can't. So it's kind of like that. You may be super fucking strong, but if you don't have the ability to move in that way, then it's all for naught. That's how Chucky is strong, but he doesn't have leverage.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So special reasoning. Gotcha.
A special reasoning.
Oh, so easy. It's so
That may
easy.
be special pleading.
It's so easy.
And no, it's not special pleading,
It's so
wise
easy.
guy.
It's so easy. Look how easy it is.
Anyway,
Fucking hate you. Fucking hate you.
so apparently JL also has a debate coming up on Johnny O's channel, and if I read the chat correctly, Team Skeptic has invited JL, Johnny, and Fohammer on to a pre-debate stream if you guys have the time. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But I know that you've been invited. So there. JL just released a video. You should go and watch it. It's bound to be excellent. And his previous one on Darth Dawkins was fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to this one on Kyle Butts. Which is just
well, it's Kyle. It's Kyle Butt. Just Butt.
okay.
No, let's make it butts.
But I feel really, really bad for this dude because I found when I was looking for pictures for him, he wears clothes like he used to be really, really fat.
Okay.
You have that certain kind of bagginess that people have to their clothes. You know what I'm talking about? Well, this dude, like when I was like, oh, it looks like he may have had like gastric bypass, or he lost weight like super, super fast. I was like, oh, now, and his last name is Butt. No, imagine if he was like really, really fat when he was a kid.
Oh, that would have been terrible for him.
It would have been awful.
That would have drove me to the cloth.
Only God will accept me.
Oh, it's bad.
God in this box of Twinkies. I'm sorry, what that mean?
No. PhD Tony, you've got you just released, well, I say just, but it's been over a week, right? Your second on third. God, I always say second. No, it's just third. Jesus Christ. On how young Earth creationists are stupid. That may not be exactly what the title is, but that's what I think it should
That isn't exactly what the title is, but I'm already waiting.
I'm surprised you can do an entire fucking video on why. I mean, it's literally like one piece of evidence to shut the whole fucking thing down.
It's technically, I'm actually discussing different techniques of geochronology. So
Cool.
I started, but it's good to know that you've been following so closely. Not that I'm trying to guilt trip you or anything. I'm just trying to guilt trip you. But the
why are you so fucking stupid?
So yes, I started with the historical record. I went into tree rings, VAV chronologies, and ice core data, and then I went into radiometric dating and explained.
Were you there when the ice froze? How do you know? Fucking sorry, I'm just douche.
Well, We don't need to. We can tell that Earth has undergone more than 90 ice ages. How quickly do you think you can build an ice sheet? You can try building an ice sheet that covers North America, covers Canada, and is 4 kilometers thick. It'll take you a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yes,
Although,
I did.
We can argue that Canada has tons of ice sheets. That's why they, play ice hockey.
No, we can't argue that they have tons of ice sheets.
Wow.
No,
Dude, really? Wow,
fuck. Golly, PhD burn.
Yeah. It turns out that when we say ice sheet, it has meaning. And
well, it turns out when you bring up a really bad joke to PhD Tony, he shoots that shit down fast.
In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Without any hesitation.
Without hesitation.
But I will return again to the point that my experience is that jokes are supposed to be funny. I know
Aren't
that
you the
wasn't
same
clear.
one? Aren't you the same
hanging
one who
around.
told us that mathematic joke earlier that didn't make sense?
Yes.
To anybody
hanging
other than mathematics.
You've been hanging around Irish Demon too long.
But it's yes, it's there are technical definitions of what is or is not an ice sheet. So an ice rinks do not count as ice sheets. So there. Take that.
Okay, fine. I stand corrected from my stereotypical joke about Canadians.
Well, since Tony shilled me and Johnny shilled Tony, then I will shill Irish. Irish, what do you have coming up? Nothing but a bunch of crap. All right, good to hear.
Good to hear.
Irish Demon is now Scottish Demon. I got you.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, there you go.
It's all about quantity and not quality. Put them out every day.
Welcome Warwick Davis to the room. Oh, Jesus Christ. Is the nerd joke from Tony earlier still in play? Jessica G asks. Yes, Jessica G. That was my point exactly. Thank you.
So the but also there will be gaming streams with Jessica G moving forward. So that'll be
You
good.
guys have got to get Alex under control because he is trying to do those, and so he's doing a fine job with Digital Darkness, but I want him to. He's starting to get down on himself, like he's doing something wrong. We want the Digital Darkness thing to be solid, and I think he needs to tap you guys as a resource.
Whoa, kinky.
I've not played many horror video games. That's the weird thing, I guess. But Jessica G she's almost finished Prey, and she's played quite a few of these, Resident Evil and that sort of stuff. So she and Alex might be able to talk about it. Yes,
That would be good. Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, more than happy to.
I'll aim him in your direction.
All right. I guess nobody's.
What have you got coming up, Johnny? Apart from a debate, well, you've got your debate with JL and Fohammer.
Right.
You've got Dingleberries and Klingons. I know that you're working on another story for your news show, Dingleberries and that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah. 2 videos a week and a live stream or 2. So yeah, that's what I got going on. It's a lot of fun. The new show is going to be we have the first follow up to the whole Sean Hufford situation, and then I'm trying to put together some other stuff to really get the conclusion of the story, all the deep dives into all the evidence, and I still have requests out for Red's Rhetoric and Sean Hufford, though I don't think they're going to speak with me anymore, which is a detriment to them because I'm trying to give them the opportunity to tell their side of the story confronted with all the evidence. And I'm not out to assassinate anybody's character. I'm out to give a balanced story. And it's important to me that they at least have the opportunity to give me their sides. And we got a little bit of Sean's on the live stream last week, but I've got follow-up questions and he's just, not responding. That's his choice, but it's on record, and it's, I want everybody to know that I'm not out to try and assassinate them, but I am going to present evidence as I have it, and we're going to let people kind of decide what they believe to be the truth and not the truth.
Yeah, I think that if they thought that you were being overly harsh, or that that the reception was overly hostile, they're completely disconnected from reality.
Well, I would tend to agree, but that's what I got going on. And the Irish team has got some stuff coming out too, so we'll see what happens there. But whatever, Irish. Just kidding. You're feeling bad. Get to feeling better. Yay!
Yes.
Everybody say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.